Today we're doing a quick review on the Rokinon or Samyang 50mm F1.4. This is an AF series lens, and yeah, this is going to be a bit quicker than most of my reviews, unfortunately, and I'll get into why, but if you are considering this lens, this video is a must watch. Let's go. So today we're doing a review on this little guy, the 50mm F1.4. This is a Rokinon or a Samyang lens. It's basically the same lens, branded differently depending on where you're from. I typically, where I'm from, deal with the Samyang lenses, and if you've seen a few of my reviews, I have a review on the 85mm F1.4 as well as the 35, and as well as the 2.8 35, so check those out. But this lens, I don't think I've come across a lens that's frustrated me as much as this lens has, unfortunately. So typically, I would go through every aspect of this lens like all my other lens reviews, but I'm gonna go through this a bit faster because, well, this thing sucks. So let's get into it. So let's first look at build. Here it is. It's the typical build you find in the Rokinon or Samyang AF series. So the build is decent. It feels decent. It's got a little bit of heft to it. No buttons or switches, and it's kind of what you'd expect out of a 1.4 that's in this price range. It's not the greatest, but it's not the worst. And I think I would give this about a 4 out of 5 stars like the other ones because it is pretty much the same thing. And let's leave it at that. That's 4 out of 5 stars for build. So let's talk about value next. Well, it's a 1.4, so it's gonna be really hard to find another 51.4 in this price range. But unfortunately, I can't say a lot of good things because, well, it doesn't work very well. I'll get into it in performance here in a second, but for value, I'm not gonna compare it to anything because it just doesn't really work. So let's talk about performance now and what's going on here. Well, compared to the 35 and the 85, this thing, I don't know what happened to this thing. It's horrible. The autofocus is loud, obnoxiously loud, completely unreliable. It fails catastrophically at times, and other times it just focuses kind of when it wants to. There's no consistency to it, whether you're in photos or video shooting, and it's just not the same that I've come to expect out of Samyang. So I don't know what happened, whether I got a bad copy, because I can't see that this lens compared to the other two are going to be that much different. So I'm just gonna say maybe I got a bad copy, I hope, but at the same time, I'm getting really sick of the Rokinon and Samyang quality control because if you've seen a few of my videos regarding the 85, I did go through a few before I found one that was awesome. And I love that lens, but you might have to go through a few to find a good one. And to be honest and fair, that is with most lenses depending on the brand, even Sony. So do keep that in mind, but this thing, like I said before, I don't know if I've had a lens be so frustrating. And for me, that's just an absolute deal breaker. So having said that, if it were to work properly, some pictures that I've taken, although the autofocus was all over the place, were quite nice. The bokeh's beautiful, and the depth of field that you can get out of a 1.4 is fantastic. The contrast and the sharpness is actually pretty good, but the autofocus makes this thing completely unusable. So as far as performance goes, you know what? 0 stars, 1 star, I don't know. And unfortunately, I hate to do it, but that's the way it is. So let's wrap up. This thing compared to the 35 1.8 and the 85 1.8, they're not the same creatures. This is actually my first experience with a Rokinon lens and not the Samyang branded lens. So if you have the choice, I would definitely recommend going the Samyang route. But like I said, do be careful. You might have to go through 1 or 2 before you get a great copy. And if possible, buy an extended warranty. So let's leave it at that, guys. Here's my personal pros and cons as usual. And I also like to rate things on a scale from never think about again to consider to definitely buy. Unfortunately, this Rokinon 50mm F1.4, never give this thing another second of thought. Just erase it from your memory. Never think about it again. So we're leaving it at that, guys. Thanks so much for watching this review. I wish I had better news, but if you want to check out any of my other lens reviews, they are much more in-depth and reasonable. So hopefully you check those out. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and make sure you drop your questions and comments down below. Like always, make mistakes, be yourself, and get out there and take some more pictures. See you next time.